Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Here in this video, we're going to be going over everything you need to know on AMC Stock, give you a rundown of the latest data, information that we have. We'll also take a look at next week's option activity and just analyze the option chain, what next week could look like for AMC Stock. It's been a rough one. It's been a rough 2024 so far. It's been a rough 2023. I think a lot of people have been tried and tested over the past 12 months, and there is a silver lining to some of this, at least, right? There is problems, there is potential dilution coming, but the risk reward proposition looks better and better every single day. If you are someone that is allocating capital to AMC now, the odds that you will make money are likely, but not guaranteed, to be a lot higher than maybe other previous points. And I think that's important to point out. Some of you guys might be buying AMC, some of you guys might not be. And the ultimate, short squeeze like event, well, that comes down to a couple different things, right? Whether or not that happens. Dilution stops, AMC's fundamentals continue to do well, and the markets are in a good place. With that dynamic and more capital coming back in our markets, with that dynamic, you will likely see some form of short squeeze event. Now, specific catalysts, things that, I can't forecast, also will be great, but a good first start here is just seeing a stabilization of AMC stock. And I do think, as I've said in the last video, a commitment to not diluting shareholders is likely coming right around the corner, in the not so distant future. And that is going to be exciting. When that happens, AMC stock is likely to do very, very well. Now, let's start off with this. I just want you guys to know some statistics on our markets right now. So this is from Seth Golden. He says, when a down year, like 2022, is followed by an up year in 2023, markets tend to keep going up the next year, 86% of the time. So that's very high statistical odds that we'll have a green year this year. The median return is 13%. But really what's happened in our markets over the past 2 years now, this is a longer term process that has been taking place, is you have been seeing this disconnect between money going into big tech names, Magnificent Seven names, the markets being top heavy, and not going into small mid-cap stocks, interest rate sensitive names. As the Fed has been raising rates and the odds of a recession have been higher, that makes a lot of sense. But as we get more clarity and hopefully avoid a recession, things should get better, okay? Things should get at least more clear, okay? If we go into a recession, 2024 is going to be a terrible year for AMC, a terrible year for stocks in general. If we avoid a recession outright, that's fantastic. The problem here is unemployment's really low. The labor market's still doing well. So if things get worse from here, well, it's more than likely going to get a little worse from here. Question is, instead of, you can only see the unemployment rate fall so much. You can only see so many jobs created. So it is a delicate process of the Fed trying to balance, doing too much, doing too little, keeping the economy afloat. Because let me tell you right now, nobody wants a recession in 2024 more than the government wants to avoid a recession. In fact, there's only been one president that has ever won a re-election during a recession, or if there was a recession within 2 years prior to an election. So if we go into recession, well, odds of the current administration getting re-elected, very, very low, okay? Almost unprecedented. The last time this happened was 1913 with William Taft, and you have had 8 other presidents try to get reelected during a recession, or if a recession happened within 2 years of that reelection, and it has not happened one other time. So I think for that reason, you're likely to see a lot of accommodation in our markets if things do start to look like we could head into a recession. And I do think that will happen at some point. I do think there will be some kind of recession fears, kind of like the banking crisis, right? Stocks fell. Banks were going bankrupt. For good reason, stocks fell. And then what happened? the Fed came in and injected $400 billion into the markets, basically overnight, stocks took off. Didn't even really look back at that point. AI got the next leg of the rally going, but the Fed did all of the work there. And I think if you do start to see job losses or job gains really slowing down, if you start to see the unemployment rate rise, the markets are going to be a little bit fearful on that, for sure. When the Fed steps in at that point, they're going to feel much, much better with the situation. And that's when more capital likely comes into our market. So that's a very important moment that I think ultimately will be very important for our markets. And that will be a big, if you will, turning point for AMC stock. And we'll see where AMC goes from that point. Obviously, it depends where AMC stock is at that point. If AMC stock's $2, $3, $4, it might look a little bit different. Maybe AMC is $8 by that point or $10 by that point. Who knows? We are expecting the first Fed rate cut in March, so that will be important as well. Now that that's out the way, and I'm kind of just rambling, but I think these things are very, very important. If we take a look at the option activity for this upcoming week, you do have calls on the open interest side of about 64% and puts on the open interest side of 36%. So almost a 2-to-1 ratio here. 2 times as many calls than puts that are held for next week's expiration. Now, last week's option activity, you had 36 orders totaling $1.92 million with a positive order value of 17%. So did not look great as far as last week, that's for sure. If you take a look at the short interest activity, cost to borrow average 1.26%, cost to borrow minimum negative 0.2%. Cost to borrow max, 2.32%. Short interest percentage of free float, 9.2%. $108.35 million worth of short positions currently in AMC stock. Days to cover 1.16. 23.05 million shares currently sold short. Shares out on loan, 17.58 million. Cost to borrow, 1.08%. Utilization, 29.84%. And a short score of 54.26 out of 100. So again, not the most encouraging data over here as well, but I do think AMC stock is multi-100% sold short. I don't believe 9% short interest at all, not even in the slightest bit at all. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section though. Do you think AMC stock is really, short or not? If you believe 9% short interest, well, then we would need to have a different conversation here, because there's not going to be a short squeeze at all if AMC is 9% short. So I think that's a bit problematic for the cause of some kind of AMC MOAS-like event. Now, if we take a look at stock twits over here, the sentiment gauge is at bearish, extremely bearish, at 2, so that's not great. Message volume, though, is at 73. So I've said it before and I'll say it again. With this specific indicator, or in general, the biggest thing that matters is the volume, the activity around AMC. If the activity went away and somehow, theoretically, everyone just forgot what AMC was, or the trade here, forgot what happened in 2021 and 2022, 2020 for that matter. If people just all of a sudden forgot about AMC, there would never be a short squeeze like event for AMC, not in the current capacity that some people, think is coming. And that's one of the biggest powers for AMC is there's a lot of activity. There's a lot of people that watch the stock, invest in the stock, and that have experienced what AMC can do in the past. So that opens the door for a lot more people to potentially buy AMC stock when the stock does start to rally. Think about it like this. I mean, if you have a random stock out there with the same quality, same aspects of AMC, and you could get some really good news, maybe Adam Aaron steps down, and that's seen as really good news for AMC. I think it actually would be seen as really good news. If nobody knows about AMC, sure, you'll probably get some kind of bullish reaction, but it's not going to be that crazy. Now, if it's AMC that does that and everyone knows about AMC, then you could see a lot more traders jump into AMC. So as long as we continue to see message volumes and people talking about AMC, that is a very positive indicator of what could happen for AMC down the line. But again, sentiment can change day by day for whatever reason and whatever news comes out. So I don't pay much attention to that, but the message volume recently has been definitely on the higher side. So that has definitely been a good thing overall. So there you have that. If we take a look at these Stocko tracker data for next week, we can go ahead and see you do have calls in the money at about 3,900, calls out the money 233,000, puts in the money about 92,000, and puts out the money at about 53,000. So lots of activity for next week. Now, we did have quite a bit of activity for last week as well, which could roll over onto next week. So these numbers could look a lot larger by the time we actually do get start trading for next week as well. So numbers already in a good place to start this upcoming week, but maybe they get even better. Good news is, specifically in regards to this upcoming week, the option activity is pretty close to the money. At least for the call side. At the $5 call, you do have about 17,000 for open interest, 13,000 for open interest at the $5.50 call, 14,000 for open interest at the $6 call, 3,300 at the $6.50 call, and 13,000 for open interest at the $7 call. So this is 1.65 million shares, or 1.68 million shares, 1.25 million shares, 1.41 million shares, 300,000 shares, and 1.3 million shares that potentially would need to be bought by market makers if AMC stock does rally. So even if AMC stock gets back to $6 per share, which is about $1.50 higher than where we are currently at, I believe that would be like a 25-30% gain from here. You would see almost 5 million shares that would have to be bought by the market makers. So and that's not including any of the other updated data that we might get coming out tomorrow morning to see how many people did roll over their prior week's options. So definitely in a favorable position this week to the call side. Now, we do have some events happening this week. We do have retail sales. We have 6 Fed speakers that will be speaking, and really a bunch of bank earnings as well. So you're going to have Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, PNC, First Bank, Guaranty Bank and Trust, Tuesday pre-market, Interactive Brokers, a couple other banks mixed in here and there. Wednesday and after hours, you have Discover. That's going to be a big one. And then TSMC Thursday pre-market. That could also be a pretty big deal for the chip sector of our markets. If TSMC does well, there you have it. Stocks in the chip sector are probably going to do well as well, including NVIDIA. And that would also be just big for our markets in general. But it's not this week. It's next week when you start to get a lot of the big tech earnings like Tesla, like Netflix, that we typically see report around the same time as each other. And, when those earnings come out, that's when you could get a larger boost to the markets. A problematic problem that we could have right now, though, is stocks are almost set up for disaster or failure coming on earnings, with the expectations being very high, and the S&P 500 already trading at all-time highs. You hit a new all-time high for the SPY on Friday. So you're not in a very favorable position for a continued rally, but I don't think you have to see a collapse necessarily at the same time. So let me know what you think about this information down below in the comment section. In the next video, we will be going over AMC specifically, what it looks like on the charts, where I think AMC stock is going, how low could we fall, try to look at some technicals here, and come to a more accurate prediction on what could happen with AMC stock next. So hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.